radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. 33 days into the new year. Only 332 days left. We are live from a bunker that is somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? What's going on out there? Anything special? Anything special? All right. Here we go. Tonight, what an amazing week on the show. And tonight, Lue Elizondo joins us. Lou is here for the first time. We are going to be talking about lots of things. I suppose we'll talk about some TTSA, maybe disclosure. Maybe ATTIP will get in there. The UAP task force will get there. Of course, disclosure, the UFO community. What is in the future for us in 2021 and beyond. We will do all of that and much more tonight with Lou. He'll be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Want to remind everybody about tomorrow night is the return of Daryl Anka. Daryl Anka Bashar right here tomorrow night on the show. Very excited about that. Love Daryl. He's great. And coming up this month, we're in February. Coming up in a couple of weeks now, exactly 3 weeks from today, is the Conscious Life Expo 2021, and Daryl is featured there. And on Thursday night, we will have our annual CLE 2021 special event. And what is great about not only this year, because I'm hosting the Conscious Life Expo this year, and I'm excited about that. And I've always hosted in years past. It's such a big event, and not only for our community but for the world. It's the biggest event. It is the premier event of the what we like to call the conference season. And this year it is virtual. It is online like everything else. But the production and the way that this event is put together is very, very special. So we're going to cover that this Thursday. All right. And for tickets and info and everything else that you need, head over to jimmychurchradio.com. We've got the links right there for Conscious Life Expo. You'll see the advertising. Just click on that and go get your tickets. And I am very, very excited about this. And it's going, I can't believe it. We're in February. we made it to February 2021. And then also on Thursday night, because it is Fader night, we will have open lines all night long. Okay, so that's this week on the show. Looking forward to my conversation tonight with Lue Elizondo. He will be with us at the bottom of the hour. And now, I got to get to today. This is the point of the show where I do the breaking news. Today, all of the other news that I was going to cover right now got removed because 3 breaking stories happened within the last few hours. And I'm going to lead off with this. SpaceX. A SpaceX prototype Starship SN9 has exploded today after crashing down on its landing pad during a high-altitude test of the vehicle from the company's site in southern Texas earlier today. Ahead of the launch, the company said the Starship would be powered by 3 of its Raptor engines before they shut off, and all of this sequentially at a height of 10 kilometers. The Starship was then due to land back down under active aerodynamic control before the engines powered back on to flip it into a vertical position for touchdown. Now, something went wrong, and when it attempted to flip back into the upright position, with the vehicle ultimately smashing down onto the landing pad at a tilt. It looked smooth. Everything looked smooth and looked fine. Didn't nail that landing. Also, today, Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny will serve 2 and almost 8 months in prison, little over 2.5 years, after being found guilty of breaking the terms of a suspended sentence handed down for embezzlement. And all of this went down in 2014. Today, Moscow City Court ruled that Navalny had failed to regularly report to the Federal Penitentiary Service, and his excuse for non-appearance was deemed insufficient. Therefore, the judge decided that the suspended judgment would be converted into a real one. The anti-corruption activist was originally sentenced in 2014 to 3.5 years, but he has already served close to 10 months under house arrest. Now, as we all know, he was poisoned a couple of months ago. Don't know how it happened. Many suspect, including Navalny, that Putin had ordered his poisoning. And then he went to Germany, got better, flew back to the Soviet Union, and was promptly arrested at customs. So there you go. He didn't get released. He is now going to serve over 2.5 years in prison. Amazon. Some of the biggest news I can bring you. Amazon announced earlier today that Amazon Web Services CEO, AWS, Andy Jassy, will replace Jeff Bezos as CEO of Amazon beginning the third quarter of 2021. Bezos is going to transition to executive chair of Amazon's board. It sounds like semi-retirement. The company had kept its succession plans quiet, although many thought that either Jassy or Jeff Wilke, the CEO of Amazon's worldwide consumer business, would be Bezos' eventual successor. Now, in August, Amazon announced that Wilke will retire this year in 2021. Jassy joined Amazon in 1997 and has led Amazon Web Services cloud team since its inception. AWS continues to drive much of Amazon's profit. There you go. Incredible news day today. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Shakira. Today is 44 years old. What? Shakira's not 44. Is she that young? Man. Christy Brinkley today is 67. Howard Bellamy of the Bellamy Brothers is 75. One of the greatest songs in the history of everything, Let Your Love Flow. Journey bassist Ross Valerie today is 72. We have been talking about Journey now for a week. I can't figure all of this out, but today it's Ross Valerie's birthday. Bassist Robert DeLeo today is 55, of course. He was the bassist and one of the principals in Stone Temple Pilots, and also another band with his brother, Talk Show. I saw Talk Show open for Aerosmith. Yeah, I think they were together for a year, but I did see them open for Aerosmith. Our dead guy's birthday today is Farrah Fawcett. 1947 and 2009, died at the age of 62. Farrah was a 4-time Primetime Emmy Award nominee and a 6-time Golden Globe Award nominee, and rose to huge international fame when she played Jill Monroe in the first season of Charlie's Angels back in 1976. Every young man in America had her poster on their bedroom wall, including yours truly, and they wore her T-shirt every day to school. That's what they did, and this is a fact. Farrah died of cancer on June 25th, 2009, at the age of 62 at St. John's Health Center right here in Santa Monica, California, with Ryan O'Neal and Alana Stewart by her side. Happy birthday, Farrah. On this day in history, OTD, 1979, Sex Pistol Sid Vicious dies of a drug overdose in New York City in the Manhattan apartment of his new girlfriend, Michelle Robison. Here's your fader fact. All right, you ready? Iceland has the largest banana plantation in all of Europe. I did not know that. Iceland has the largest banana plantation in all of Europe. I'm just going to leave that right there. Tonight, very special guest, Lue Elizondo is joining us. He'll be with us at the bottom of the hour. Tomorrow night is Daryl Anka and Bashar. Thursday is another Fader night with our CLE 2021 special event, followed by open lines all night long. All right, let me hit this River Moon coffee. What a great show we've got coming up tonight. But, I need this River Moon coffee. Fade to Black blend. Best coffee in the world. I never would have thought that I would have my own coffee, right? My picture on the front of a bag of beans. How cool is that? Get yours. Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. RiverMoonWellness.com. All of the links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Use that promo code F2B Blend. F2B Blend will get 15% off of your order today. Now, I'm excited. You excited? Let me hit this coffee again. Well, tonight, Lue Elizondo joins us for the first time on Fade to Black. And I know that many of you out there are very excited to finally get Lue on the show, and I'm certainly with you on that. And you probably have thought that tonight's conversation would never happen. And I get that too. But let me make a few things clear in advance of Lue joining us at the bottom of the hour. Okay? First, I have said this many, many times over the last few years. When it comes to TTSA, before we put all of our complete trust in them and their mission, we have to let some time pass. A couple of years at a minimum. And then we'll be able to see what's really going on. Now, that has been my position. My take on this has not changed. And this mindset is the same with anyone or any group that comes along into the UFO field. Trust in this community is earned. It is not a right. Second, the marketing and public relations that were behind TTSA was strong. And being able to fund these efforts takes money. TTSA was willing to spend it. TTSA was employing some of the best PR in the business. All of this to get their message out. And for that we should all be thankful. Okay? I'm very, very grateful. I am. And I've said this over and over again. Okay? I can't say it enough. TTSA was able to get the UFO question into the worldwide media like never before in the history of the subject. They did. Any criticism of TTSA that has gone down out there in conversations with the UFO community and beyond, all of that was always answered with, but, yeah, you may be right, but, yeah, you're probably right, but they've done more for UFOs than anybody else in the history of anything. They brought it into the media. We've got Tucker Carlson. We've got CNN. We've got the BBC. Everybody is talking about. We've got the New York Times. Yes, absolutely 100% correct. Now, I want to go back, and I will say this again. Back on December 17th, 2017, I was driving my car, listening to KFI talk radio here in Los Angeles, listening to the breaking news. I'm just driving my car down the road. Well, it was announced today by the New York Times that the Pentagon has a secret UFO group that is investigating UFOs. And I almost crashed my car. And that is not some metaphor. I listened to that, and by the time I got home, I had heard this 3 times on the radio. I'm jumping on my cell phone while I'm driving, which is illegal. I get home. I'm talking to Rita. Phones are just ringing. And that night, we went live on a Saturday with Fade to Black. The Days of Disclosure. Here we go. I was excited. Okay? I realize what a good PR team can do. Okay? Are we clear? Third, just over a couple of years ago, as the questions about TTSA started to get asked by me and others, I sent an email to Tom and everyone over at TTSA. And I also had a couple of journalists copied in that email too as well. I wanted everybody to make sure that there was no questions about the list of questions. That email had a list of 10 questions that I wanted addressed. And I got replies immediately. And those replies from different individuals were basically, quote, Jimmy, quit asking questions. You don't understand the big picture. We do. And some of these replies were from some people that I know quite well. And I was not digging that. Skating the issues. The last time I spoke with Tom DeLonge was last summer. And we talked about, at that time, we talked about him coming on the show on Fade to Black to promote Unidentified. And I agreed to it. And he said at that time that, and I'm quoting here, he said, I don't want to answer any questions that the UFO community wants you to ask me. And I was like, wait a minute, Tom. I said, well, Tom, we don't have a show then. And that was it. That was it. That was a year ago. I knew at that point that when it comes to TTSA, in the future, I'll just report the breaking news when it happens. And I said this publicly. I think I posted it. I mentioned it on the show. But at the time, I meant it, and I'm still there today. And that was because of the conversation I had with Tom. I need all of you to understand this. And lastly, all of this ultimately is why I had said that TTSA would never let Lue come on the show. That this would never happen. Back then it was a different situation, and I was asking questions and I was poking around, and they wanted to control the narrative. They wanted to control it. That's fine. But I knew that having Lue on the show, and people were asking me about this, and that includes Chris Mellon, or anyone else over at TTSA, but this would never happen, ever. But today, things have changed. Now, and I need this to be very clear here. There was so much drama that went on behind the scenes. Things that will never be talked about. Not even in my tell-all book that'll be my deathbed confession. Right? I just won't talk about it, ever. It's just who I am. And today, Lue finds himself in the same position. There's no reason, everyone, for drama. And I know that there are those out there that thrive on it, but it's just not going to happen, folks. Not tonight, and not ever. But that doesn't mean I won't ask the tough questions tonight. And trust me, Lue is expecting them. He wants them. And I think that in the past, he's gotten way too many underarm slow pitch softballs. And I mean that with the greatest of respect. But what's the fun in that? What's the fun in that for Lue? There's no fun in that. You have to ask the tough questions. But what's the fun in that? Well, I'll answer that for you. None. There is no fun. You got to do it. All right? All right. I mean, I want Lue. I said this to him today. I want Lue to say, hey, I can't answer that. I want him to, because that allows me to press and have a follow-up question. It's exactly what that is. It's my job. We'll see what we can do. Okay? Now, I'll never forget when someone from TTSA looked me straight in the eye, face to face, straight in the eye, and said, and I quote, Jimmy, we don't care about the UFO community. Their support or concerns just doesn't matter. They don't know the truth about UFOs. We do. End quote. And I just stood there trying to keep my composure. And I did. I was cool. Now, when these words are said to me, you don't have to wonder why I started to poke around into TTSA and what their message was to the world and who was doing it. Yes, I was on a mission, and now you know why. Or at least the stuff I can talk about. So in closing, I'll leave you with this. I've been chasing the UFO question for almost 50 years. 5 decades of dedication. And I truly believe that we are closer than ever before to real answers from official sources. I can feel it. And you can feel it too. Now, there is a time and a place for everything. Everything happens for a reason. And right now, it's fade to black in the conversation I'm about to have tonight. Because we have a very special guest. Lue Elizondo is joining us for the first time. We're going to be talking about TTSA, the future of disclosure, the UFO community, his background, what's his take, what has he seen, what does he know. We're going to do all of that tonight and a whole lot more. Tomorrow, right here on Fade to Black, Daryl, Anka, and Bashar. Thursday night is another Fader night. This isn't just another Fader night, though. Okay, we're going to have open lines all night long, but we're going to have Robert Q. Quicksilver with us. We're going to have Serena Wright-Taylor here, and we're going to have T. Solis with our Conscious Life Expo 2021 special preview event, followed by open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Lue Elizondo at Lue Elizondo right there on Twitter. We've got everything up in our Twitter feed. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Okay, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Lue Elizondo is here. Tomorrow night is Daryl Anka Bashar. Thursday night is another Fader night in our CLE 2021 special preview event, followed by open lines all night long. What a great week on the show. Tonight, it's Lue. Lue earned his degree from the University of Miami with majors in microbiology, immunology, and advanced research experience in tropical diseases. Lue spent several years serving in the United States Army and was later recruited into a special activities program. He has served as an intelligence officer and senior special agent throughout Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. In 2008, he began working with the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, otherwise known as ATTIP, and in 2010, he assumed the leadership role for that effort. In 2017, he resigned in protest due to over-secrecy and a lack of transparency into the important topic of UFOs. Since then, he has been engaged in the effort to disclose the truth about this phenomenon along with other key individuals. And I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Mr. Lue Elizondo. Lue, good evening, man. How are you?
Mr. Church, thank you very much for having me. I sincerely appreciate it and really looking forward to engaging you and your audience. This is definitely my pleasure. I think I'm probably getting the better end of the deal out of this, but thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And that'll be the last Mr. Church I hear tonight, okay? Are we cool with that?
Good copy.
Okay, good.
Jimmy, you got it.
Now, you're a first-time guest, so you get the first-time guest disclaimer, Lue. Next time you're on the show, you're not going to get it, but you get it tonight, and it is this. Lue, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where that conversation starts, we're going to end as friends. There you go. Simple.
Perfect.
Now,
absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to start with a general statement for everybody so they understand this conversation that we are about to have. This conversation is unscripted. It's uncensored. Uncensored. It'll be that too as well. And unrehearsed. And I have zero questions prepared. And you have stressed to me over the last week, Jimmy, ask me anything. And I want the audience to understand that this is what they are going to get tonight. Are we on the same page, Lue?
You got it.
All right. Now, let's start here. I'm going to start to clear the air for everybody and for the audience tonight. And I want to say this. Clandestine operations, counterintelligence, secret operations going on overseas, special agent, James Bond, right? How can the audience trust the conversation with tonight with your background that you have been very forthwith about? How can they trust the conversation that we are about to have?
Well, they don't have to trust it. Frankly, the purpose of me being on this radio show is nothing more than to get the conversation to continue moving forward. I think dialogue is very important. I'm not asking anybody to believe me. I'm not asking anybody to agree with me. I'm not asking anybody to take my side. In fact, I think contrary positions and opinions are good. I think they're healthy. And I think that's what conversation is about. And the fact that we can even have this conversation on this radio program about this topic in this country says a lot. And at the end of the day, if all I accomplish in this radio program are more people having the conversation, then I've succeeded. To answer your question, why trust me? I don't really give a damn if people trust me or not. The bottom line is that my background in intelligence has been used against the enemy, and the enemy in this case are not Americans. The skills that I've learned for the past 20 some odd years has been used in combat and in warfare against the enemy. I swore an oath and allegiance to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I was on the other side of the firing line. My job was to protect Americans, not deceive them. Yes, it's true that within the world of counterintelligence and intelligence, you learn a lot of tradecraft, and that tradecraft, when employed against the enemy, can be very, very effective. But you never use it against your own people. In the past, I think there's people who have long memories. In the 60s and of course in the early 70s, there was a history of abuse by the American government and its people against its people, and there were things that involved horrible things, atrocities, from spying on student groups in colleges to horrible experiments involving syphilis and other type of things, and of course electric Kool-Aid acid tests. So we haven't always behaved very well as intelligence personnel, and so thankfully Congress decided to change the laws and make it very, very, very difficult, especially the last quarter century, for anybody in the intelligence community to do anything wrong against the American people. There's actually laws now preventing that from happening. There's an inspector general oversight. There's attorneys. So, like you say in your radio broadcast, this is not your father's radio station. This is not your father's government. We've come a long way in the way we do business, and certainly when I joined the military and then later the U.S. government and the intelligence community, I didn't join to harm the American people. I joined to help the American people. That's an oath I take very seriously. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if people don't want to believe it, well, don't believe it. That's not what I'm here for.
Let's. I want to start in the present before we go backwards tonight, but let's start with today. Why did you choose to leave TTSA?
Well, that was a mutual decision. TTSA was a great company, and it absolutely accomplished the missions we set out for it to accomplish. And I can go back and probably list off the top 10 things, but I'm not going to waste your time and your audience's time rehashing that. But bottom line is I think we were successful in our mission. But let's not forget, and I've said this before, the battle space, if you will, of disclosure is constantly evolving. It's like when you're playing chess. You don't ever keep your pieces on the chessboard static. You win by moving and outmaneuvering your enemy. So in this particular case, from my personal perspective, the enemy is over secrecy of this topic of UAPs, of UFOs, that historically has plagued the government for a very long time. So in order to accomplish this goal, the battle space is constantly evolving. I think you have to evolve your tactics and your strategy with it. Being with TTSA was never the end game for myself or Chris Mellon or Steve Justice. It was, at the time, the appropriate step to take to get the initial job done. But now that initial job is complete, we are now moving our pieces on the chessboard, if you will, or in the battle space to now launch phase 2 of this endeavor. And I'll keep it simple at that.
Well, what was the mission? Was the mission, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was the mission to push this out into the public and into the media? Was that the mission? Because if that was the mission successful, complete.
Yeah, let me give you just a very quick anecdote. That the 5 pillars of our emphasis were always legislative engagement, senior executive engagement in the executive branch, engagement with foreign partners and allies, and then the 4th pillar was engaging the media, and then the 5th pillar was engaging the general public. And I think we did accomplish a lot of what we set out to do initially. A lot of people ask, well, why Tom DeLonge? And my response to that is, well, why not? Tom has a voice very much like me being on your radio show today. Jimmy, you are known as a radio personality among many other things, and you have a voice. Whether people want to agree with your position or not, you have a voice, and as a result, people listen. Well, Tom DeLonge has a voice. And you don't always have to agree necessarily with his perspective, just like you don't have to agree with mine or anybody else's. But he's a very effective communicator. He'd made a history, and a very successful history, of in the entertainment world, and being kind of that, if you will, that shock rocker, punk rocker that went against the system. And if you look at the topic of UFOs and UAPs, there's really a lot of synergy. There's a lot of commonality. I'm looking right now at your screen. I see a bunch of, awesome guitars, electric guitars hanging in the background. Music and entertainment is a very effective way to communicate. And sometimes in a crowded room amongst many voices, you need a bullhorn. And in this particular case, very much like you, Tom is that bullhorn. He can get the message out. I've often told people, people ask me, isn't Tom a little bit like a bull in a china shop? And my response is, well, no, Tom is more like a hand grenade in the punch bowl. I mean, it can be violent at times, but very effective. And so I think using that platform initially was a great way to get out the message as quickly as possible to the broadest audience, in a fairly effective way. Now, hindsight being 2020, could we have done things differently? Well, sure. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? I'm sure there's things we do in our daily lives that we probably look back and say, well, I wish I'd have done that a little bit differently. But for the most part, I feel very satisfied that we were able to accomplish much of what we set out to do with TTSA.
Now, what about the not necessarily the investors that purchased stock options into TTSA, but the original presentations that you were part of back in 2017 with the talk of advancing the technology, bringing it into the civilian sector? You're going to have a technology division. Of course, Steve Justice was a part of that. And that part of it, which was another pillar of TTSA, what happens with that angle?
Well, it's still there and it's still evolving. We still have the CRADA, which is the research agreement with the U.S. government. We still have capabilities such as the ATTIP project and the Vault and Scout, and other efforts such as the Wapaton project, which is working with the First Nations of Saskatchewan, trying to record the oral traditions of indigenous people. So those efforts are still very much alive, and we are actually currently right now, as we speak, believe it or not, working on furthering those efforts. They're certainly not dead in the water. It's like any time you shift gears, right? There's a transition involved in that, and we're now looking at the most effective way to succeed in those areas.
Now, the TTSA website has been scrubbed. You're no longer there, along with Chris Mellon and of course Steve Justice. Has the finality of that set in, and because it's been a part of your life for the last 3 years, and to not see that, I expected it to still be there. Maybe it wasn't updated yet. But it was gone. And has that sunk in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as a military person, you're used to every 3 years having a new job. That's just kind of the way uniformed services go. No one is assigned to a duty position forever. There's a lot of turnover. So for me, has it sunk in? Yes, but in a way, because I'm still friends with everybody there, it's literally just a phone call away. I can, every time I go to California, I can swing by and go grab a cup of coffee with Tom or anybody else in the office. Hal is still a very close friend of mine. I still maintain close communications with Jim Semivan. So, and of course, all the advisors as well, such as Dr. Norm Kahn, et cetera. So my leaving the company isn't what a lot of people think. People think, oh, they got disgruntled and there was some big fiasco inside. That really wasn't the case. As far as the daily runnings of the business, I'm not a business guy, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I know there were some people specifically brought into TTSA to manage the business portion. I'm not a business guy, and frankly, I'm not an entertainer either. So there really wasn't a super great fit for me. As you probably know, and a lot of your listeners, the TTSA core mission has begun to lift and shift and to focus primarily on the entertainment piece. And I think that's probably prudent because it gives you probably a better chance of near-term return on investment for those people who have contributed money and invested in TTSA. So that's probably a prudent idea. Again, forgive me because I really don't have the authority to speak on behalf of TTSA. A, I'm not an employee, and B, I wasn't in the business process of the daily activities of the company. But I do know that the emphasis was to start focusing on a more immediate return on investment for those investors that are out there.
Now, very early on, the message that was being pushed out through various media organizations by TTSA was using the word threat. And I think that the perception by anybody, not only the UFO community, but anybody reading this outside of the UFO community, sees threat, equates that with fear, and that was the totality of the message coming out of TTSA. Were you concerned about that?
Well, sure, but let's not forget where I come from. I come from the national security apparatus of our country. Being part of the intelligence community and Department of Defense, there's always a potential threat narrative. Otherwise, put this over to EPA or Department of Interior or some other organization to handle, or Health and Human Services or even NASA. The fact that it's in Department of Defense, the word defense is in its very title. The job of the Department of Defense is to go and fight and win wars very quickly and very efficiently. It's not really to engage in humanitarian assistance or anything like that, or ask the bigger questions that, frankly, the scientific community and academia is probably better postured to answer, such as what are the intentions and where are they from and all that. We were looking at two fundamental things. What is it and how does it work? And from a DoD perspective, just take this for a moment. If you have something flying around that you don't know what it is, you don't know how it works, and there's not, frankly, a damn thing you can do about it, is that a threat? Well, from a national security perspective, it could be if it wanted to be. Let's superimpose this idea. If these things happen to have, let's say, a Russian star on the tail or a North Korean tail number, and they were flying over our populated cities, what would happen? Well, we would scramble F-22s immediately. NORAD would be alerted, and it'd be on the front page of CNN and Fox News. That's the reality. We don't like things into what we call air domain awareness. We don't like things flying in our airspace that we don't know what they are. So, yeah, there's a potential threat there. I've often used, and I'm going to digress here, Jimmy, just for a second. It's a little bit of a long-winded analogy, but it might help put things into perspective for some of your audience. And I've said this analogy before, so forgive me if it seems old. But if I may ask, Jimmy, you don't have to be specific, but where do you live?
I live in Burbank.
Okay, Burbank, beautiful city. Let me ask you, at night, do you lock the front door?
Sometimes.
Okay, and I'm sure you live in a great neighborhood. You don't expect anything bad to happen. So you lock that front door just to be careful, right? And you might even go the extra step. Maybe you'll check once in a while the front windows, make sure they're secure. And when you go to bed, you might even turn the alarm system on just for extra precaution. Let's say one morning you wake up and you come downstairs and you're going to have a nice hot cup of coffee or tea, and you walk downstairs and all of a sudden there are muddy boot prints in your living room. Now, no one's been hurt, nothing's been taken, nothing's out of place. But despite you locking the front door that night before and the windows and turning on the alarm, there's now muddy boot prints that weren't there the night before. My question to you and your audience is that a threat? And my response would be, well, it could be if it wanted to be, so we better figure it out. And that's where that threat narrative came from. It's the fact that we don't know what this is. In order to determine what a threat is in government speak, there's two pieces of the equation you have to have. Intent versus capabilities. Now, we've seen some of the capabilities, which are pretty incredible. We have no idea the intent. So therefore, it's a big question mark. We can't say definitively that it is or it is not a threat. So the prudent perspective to have is that, well, maybe we should try to figure it out. And again, not trying to fear monger, because I know there's a lot of people out there that consider themselves quote unquote experiencers, and they say, oh no, it's great, it's wonderful. But what about for those that it's not so great and wonderful? For those that have reported terrifying incidents, for being taken away against your own volition? You know, in terms of an investigator, which is my background, if I take you somewhere and you call for an Uber and you want to go to the airport, but in the meantime I go and I take you to go pick up my clothes from the laundry, and then I go get pizza, whether it's a nice ride or not, that's called kidnapping. That's a felony. It's illegal, because I'm taking you somewhere against your free will. And God forbid if I even touch you, because if I touch you, now that's assault, right? These are crimes. And I understand that people get very emotional about the whole idea about, you know, the threat narrative, and Lou, you're fear mongering. No, I'm not. I've got 2 daughters, and I'll be damned if, you know, I don't even trust their boyfriends. So why in the hell would I trust something that I have zero information on, other than some of the capabilities? That's just from my perspective, with my background, that's kind of my DNA, and that's kind of the DNA of the Department of Defense. And frankly, I would submit to you, you want them to be that way. You don't want them taking chances just because we don't know something. I think it's too early to make a presumption one way or the other. I think we need more data. I think we need more information in order that we can make that determination and then decide what we want to do as a society, as a people, as a country.
Yeah, I'm a military brat. My dad did 30 years in the Army. I lived on bases all around the country, all around the world, and I totally respect the military and the military life. It's an awesome experience with that. But my dad never fired a gun. He was band leader in the Army band. So let me just say that.
Hey, you know what? Great. He was smarter than me.
I often thought that he kind of outsmarted everybody on that one. He didn't do anything after basic training. But that being said, was there any? Is the Department of Defense in any branch sitting on knowledge of threats? Has there been any hostile activity that would warrant the threat narrative?
So that's a great question, Jimmy, because the term threat, there can be something like in terms of a direct threat, which we all kind of imagine being like a foreign adversarial threat, but then there's indirect threats. Another analogy I like to use that, you know, they have a fence around the tarmac of an airport so people don't get too close. Partly that is up there for your own protection. Obviously, if I get too close to a 747 about to take off, there's going to be some injuries. I'm going to probably get burned. I might go deaf because of the sound and the acoustic, if you will, signature. That is a biological threat. It may not be a purposeful, intentful threat by the aircraft to harm me, but there's an environmental issue there. And so I think a lot of people look and say, well, was there any provocative action by one of these UAPs? Well, that depends. What is your definition of provocative? Because for me, if I'm flying an F-18 at cruising altitude, let's say at Mach 1, and all of a sudden something is approaching my aircraft at a much greater speed and comes within 50 feet of my aircraft, well, that's an air safety issue. You know, that's not a direct threat in the way of a hostility that this thing is trying to shoot you or shoot you down, but there's still a threat to safety. So, you know, it's as we unpackage this term threat, it's really not quite that simple. There's a lot of different layers and strata to that term threat. Some of it is a direct, some of it is indirect, some of it is unintentional, some of it may be intentional. I think what you're asking me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, has there been any direct provocation by a UFO, UAP, against a DOD or a U.S. government equity? Is that correct?
Yeah. Has anybody shot at each other? Have you seen any reports? Is the Department of Defense in any branch sitting on this? Have you seen any of it?
I have seen data that suggests that they have these UAP have a direct ability to interfere with our nuclear strike capability, both in defense and in response to a nuclear threat. So for me, anything that has the ability to interfere with that could be problematic. Put it this way: if you and I were to go walk onto, let's say Oscar or November site up in the northern part of Montana, you and I would be quickly surrounded by people with a lot of machine guns and probably escorted away very quickly and questioned quite rigorously, right? Because that's a potential threat, perceived threat to our national response capability. Well, these things have the ability, seemingly, to fly over our area without impunity and have the ability to interfere with our capability. And if it's not scary enough that they have the ability to take our systems offline, we have information that over in Russia, it actually interfered and brought those nuclear capabilities in Russia online. So that's a whole different equation now we're talking about. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay, there you go. We need to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation, except we're going to change a little bit of a direction. Having fun?
You got it.
Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I don't think we're getting to phone calls tonight. I'm watching the phone lines light up. That's not going to happen.
They might hate you more than they hate me now. You don't take their calls.
That's right. That's right. Our guest tonight, Lue Elizondo. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are also the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Lue Elizondo is here. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, Daryl Anka Bashar is here, and Thursday night's Fader Night. Open lines, but we are also going to do our Conscious Life Expo 2021 special preview event. And tonight, it's all about Lue, though, and a great conversation so far. Lue, I want to back up a little bit, and my concern has always been the UFO community and what it represents, and the ignoring of the UFO community by TTSA for me raised a lot of red flags. Is that something that you would have done differently over the last 3 years?
Yeah, I think hindsight being 2020, as we discussed, is the greatest teacher of all. You know, I have never been a UFO guy other than working for the government. I don't know anything about ufology or ufologists. It was a bit of a baptism by fire when I left the government. My focus has always been, and I've always maintained this, is not the UFO community. They have champions. They have people already that have been engaging in this topic, such as yourself, as you said, for 50 years, right? So I'm not going to change anybody's opinion. My focus and the focus of Chris Mellon has always been the other 99.9% of the population who's never really even heard about UFOs or may have seen some sort of science fiction movie as a kid, but never really paid attention to the topic because it was typically associated as being a fringe topic, a topic that is somewhat taboo, a lot of stigma associated with it. My focus was never the UFO community. My focus was everybody else. You know, UFO community has its champions already, and there's nothing that I'm going to do or say or show that is going to change the opinion or narrative of anybody in the UFO community. It's a very emotionally charged community. A lot of people have opinions. It's like politics and religion, right? I'm not going to go into a Catholic church and try to convert anybody. That's foolish. Why would I do that? You know, they already have their organized structure, if you will, and they're very happy with those narratives. My focus was trying to come in and bring this topic out of the excuse a pun, out of the shadows and really into the mainstream, and that includes media, right? So having major both liberal and conservative media outlets for the first time covering this and it's not political suicide for them, right? They're not chuckling and laughing under their breath and ha, 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 right? You now have scientists and you have Harvard professors and you have academics all coming forward now and saying, you know what, this is a serious topic and we need to have conversation about it. Now, looking back, could we have done better with the UFO community? Sure, absolutely. But I was never in the UFO community. I wouldn't even know where to begin. That's someone else's job. Let somebody who knows that world do that. I have tried very hard in the last few months since I've left TTSA to engage the UFO community. The reason for that is because there's a tremendous amount of talent. I got to tell you, Jimmy, one of the most incredible tools I have seen that has been truly awe-inspiring has been the emergence of this UFO Twitter. This is a group of people who come from all walks of life, all socioeconomic backgrounds, all race, color, religions are there. And making this more exciting is that you have actually senior members of the government that are actually now part of the conversation and getting a pulse for this topic. I mean, how wonderful that is, that we can finally have conversation about this in an elevated way, even with other world leaders. Japan just jumped on board with America in a bilateral relationship, information sharing relationship about UFOs. I mean, Jimmy, I don't know what to tell you. That for me is one hell of an achievement. And that's not an achievement that TTSA or myself or any single one person or organization can take credit for. That's everybody's win. That's your win. That's your audience's win. That's our win. That's the collective win of all of us.
Well, and I think, but let me jump in. That's what TTA missed the boat on.
I don't disagree.
All of that support, all of it, by saying, we don't care about the UFO community. They don't know what's going on with UFOs.
But that's not entirely true, because let's face it. The very first conference I ever did was for MUFON. And the second conference I ever did was for the SCU. So, I mean, it wasn't that I was alienating or we were trying to alienate anybody purposefully, but, you had a small enclave of people sitting over here on the side called the UFO community. And then you had this 4.5 billion other people out there that's never even heard about UFOs really, or thought that they were. So I agree with you 100% that probably, looking back, we could have done a much better job engaging. And I sincerely and truly and humbly apologize for anybody who may have felt they were left out. At the time, I did not control my own media. Now I do. And I think you're seeing a lot more engagement on behalf of Chris and myself to engage the community in this topic. But yeah, I mean, we sure as hell could have done a lot better job in the early days. But you don't know what you don't know, and I think we're trying to make up for some of that lost ground, perhaps. At least that's what we're trying to do now.
Thank you for that. Very early on, as I looked at. And I want you to really listen to what I'm about to say. But I looked at the staff at TTSA and 10 or 12 that were listed on the website, and 10 out of that 12 were from an agency. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're talking about the CIA and the Department of Defense and counterintelligence and so forth. And, from the top down, from Semivan down, you had a medical brain specialist from the CIA. Right. Okay. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, if my company, my corporation that I own had that same staffing, the hammer would come down on me from the community.
I can appreciate that, Jimmy, but let's face it, your industry is full of experts in your field. You do a radio show, and I'm sure, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure you have media experts on your staff, and editing experts, and audiovisual experts, and all the experts you need to do your mission. And from my perspective, let's not forget that ATTIP was an intelligence function, at least from the time I came in from 2008 until the time I left in 2017. It still remains under the UAP task force, an intelligence function under the DoD. So naturally, anybody who's going to have any expertise or experience in this within the government comes from the intelligence community. And yeah, I know it's startling. People look at that and say, hey, what the hell's going on here? Wait, is this some sort of psychological operation being run against us? It's not. It's just that that's where the core density of expertise lays. And it's, had it been, like I said, under the Department of Energy or the Department of Interior or Health and Human Services, maybe we'd have a bunch of doctors instead of spooks on staff. And that's highly probable. But it's just the fact that ATTIP was an intelligence capability and remained within the intelligence apparatus. I don't think it's that much of a stretch for people to recognize that's where you're going to get that expertise. And the only way we're going to break down the barriers and the misunderstanding and the mistrust is by doing exactly this, having honest dialogue, communication. Ask us anything you want. Well, I can't say for them, but ask me anything you want, and I will do my honest very best to tell you what I know. As long as I don't violate my security oath, or frankly, I have the answer, because there's going to be some questions I'm sure frankly I don't know, and I'll tell you that. So that's exactly why you see me doing shows like yours, because we realize that we have spent too long not explaining our position. We probably could have done a better job explaining our position earlier on and demystifying a lot of this. But I get it.
Well, the perception. It's always us, and not only the UFO community, but the United States citizens. It's us against them. It's us against the man. It will always be presented that way. And when it comes,
unfortunately, you're right, Jimmy. That's absolutely the perception, and we see it all the time on the nightly news. But please understand that 99.9% of the Americans that work in the government are just like you and me. They're patriots. They have mortgages to pay. They love their children. They're not eating babies on the street corner. They're fighting and winning wars on our behalf. They're just like your father. Your father was in the Army. That's exactly like everybody I've ever run into the Pentagon. They want to do a good job. Yeah, they make mistakes. Yeah, the system fails sometimes because of the bureaucracy. But all in all, it's filled with really good people. And I think when we make the mistake of saying the government, let's not forget the government serves us, we the people, not the other way around. If we have a problem with government, then it's up to us to change it. Let's stop bitching and sitting back on our lawn chairs and saying, I don't like the man. You don't like it, vote somebody who you do want in.
Well,
be quiet, get your ass up, and have a conversation with somebody and vote somebody in that you do trust that will make the changes that you want. I don't disagree with you. By the way, Jimmy, I understand the perception very well because I've lived it. Every time I walk into a room and I'm wearing a suit, I can see people scatter like mice. Oh God, here comes the spooks, right? But in reality, I think you're giving us far too much credit than we deserve.
Well, you don't look too spookish, by the way. You've now,
I'm wearing my glasses and yeah.
But there's the other side of this, and I know you've heard it, so let's address it now. That Tom was brought in because of his influence in the entertainment world and was used as a front for a CIA operation to bring disinfo in to the world. And it's kind of hard to not have that argument, is it?
Well, let me ask you, to what purpose? Why would we spend millions of dollars to run a campaign against the American people just to fool them? Is it just to play a joke, a funny joke, and in 10 years the truth comes out, we say, ha, fooled you guys? I mean, that doesn't really make sense. That's not what we spend taxpayer dollars on. Now, I understand that people make the claim, hey, Tom was brought in. And frankly, I don't know the answer to that because I wasn't part of TTSA back then. I wasn't one of the founding members. So I really don't know if Tom found the people or the people found Tom. I really don't know. But at the end of the day, if we're getting disclosure, I'm good with it. I really don't care either way because it's working. And if we happen, by the way, just for argument's sake, let's say we did have some friends in the CIA that wanted to bring about disclosure. Well, you know what? Thank you. I'm pretty happy with that. We're getting what we wanted, and people will say, well, it's a psyop, and we're doing. I don't know what else to say. Why? I mean, I guess use common sense. Why would we be doing this just just to deceive Americans. My point is there's no reason to do it. To what? Hide super secret technology? Well, we do that all the time. We have technology that won't see the light of day for the next 25, 30 years. I don't need to have a public campaign to deceive Americans. I mean, that's silly. I'll just keep my stuff at Area 51 and you'll never see it. So go ahead.
Okay, well, understood, except there's always a but, right? There's always a but. But the government, Washington, D.C., in any form, has not been forthwith or honest about what they know or do not know about UFOs for at least 70 years. And now,
I agree. And I agree with you, Jimmy, 100%.
And so
that is exactly why I am doing what I'm doing. You're absolutely correct.
So today, why should we put our trust in the man when it has been the opposite for so long? You know, tinfoil hats,
this
crazy.
Is my point.
Yes.
You don't have to trust the man because we are getting the results we collectively, the community, the UFO community, UFO Twitter, the American population, we're getting the answers. We're getting our senior elected officials engaged. They're receiving classified briefings about the reality of these things. You have the establishment of a UAP task force. You think the government wants to go after this? Hell no. This thing is radioactive. This is a traditionally a toxic portfolio for anybody to manage. They're doing this begrudgingly. So, you know, my response to that is, you know, if you don't want to trust a man, then don't. But you're getting the results. When you say the man, you have to look in the mirror because to some degree, we collectively are making this happen. This is not the man just coming forward and say, hey, let me fool the American people and we're going to lay out disclosure. No, it has been, people don't realize the sacrifice it took to even get to where we are now. I mean, it has been brutal. I will tell you, I won't talk about myself, the journey I've had to be on, but let me tell you, there's a lot easier ways to do a psychological operation against a target than this way. If you ever were to do one, this would be the last way you'd ever want to do it. It's expensive. There's a lot of liability, a lot of exposure, and there's too much at risk. Because if it ever got out that this, let's just say for argument's sake, this was some sort of psyop, you'd have to fire half of the executive branch and bring them up on charges, probably of sedition, to be honest with you. So, you know, again, I would tell people that if you're upset with the man and you think that this is an effort by the man to fool you, I would say look in the mirror because you are the man. Every person out there represents the man because that is who the government works for. And again, I know I get a little bit animated when I say, hey, if you don't like the government, then get up and change it. But that's sincere. I'm not just saying that. We ultimately, the failure and success of any government is a reflection on its people. And we are the ones who make those decisions, not the government.
I wish everybody could see Lou. You can't, but he's getting very animated. The arms are...
That's because I'm Latin. I'm always that way. I'd like to read a quote to you real quick. A buddy of mine sent me a quote. Jimmy, go ahead and talk, but there's something I want to share with you. And let me...
Okay, while you're pulling that up, here's the next question. If we go back to the live presentation and the announcement of TTSA, you resigned, I believe, the day before, right? And your resignation letter. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how it went down. And you resigned and went over to TTSA. Just recently, the UAP task force is put together, and you leave TTSA at the same time, and that leaves me backing up saying, I think Lou's got something to do with the UAP task force. This is beyond coincidence. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You know, I want to be careful not to say too much. It's still, the UAP task force is in a bit of a delicate state right now. It still needs to get on its feet. So I don't want to say anything. There's some incredible fine men and women in that organization right now who are friends of mine, who are frankly on the ATTIP journey with me. And so, you know, much of the credit really belongs to them.
Okay, well, the answer is yes. Okay, what's the quote you wanted to read to us?
So this is a quote from George Washington. It's not very long. It says, "Government is not reason. It is not eloquent. It is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Experience has taught us that it is much easier to prevent an enemy from posting themselves than it is to dislodge them after they have got possession. And when the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led, like sheep to the slaughter." That was George Washington. And so there is a natural distrust with government that has been around forever. This is not just a UFO thing that the UFO community has experienced. That was said by George Washington, who was one of the founding fathers of this great nation. So I think healthy distrust is okay. Where I draw the line is paranoia distrust, right? That's why we have checks and balances. We always want to make sure we want to mind the minders, so to speak. And that's really up to the people to do. Your show is a perfect example of that. Your job is to call out something when you see there is some sort of malfeasance or some sort of injustice in whatever it is the show you're doing. That's precisely what we should be doing. That is exactly our job as the people, to make sure the people that are governed, we govern the government. That's how it should be. And so that's why when I talk to people with my counterintelligence background, my first thing that I say back to them is, if you distrust the government, then change that, because the government is a reflection of you. And it's, it's not that hard to do. Just get up and vote for somebody. It's, or join the government yourself and make the changes yourself.
Now, I want to talk about Susan Gough for a second. You knew this was going to come up at some point tonight.
Sure.
So much with Susan could be discussed, but there was one point that she addressed more than once, and that was you and ATTIP had nothing to do with each other. And she drove that point home. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah. Well, first of all, she said that ATTIP had nothing to do with UFOs, right? So let's
she
start
did
there.
say. Well, like I said, there's many things we could talk about with Susan.
There's a lot of layers. And look, these people come and go. Dana White already confirmed who I was, where I worked. So did Senator Harry Reid. So did Bob Bigelow. So did Hal Puthoff. There's a document from 2009 from the Senate with my name on it for ATTIP. It says in black and white ATTIP. It says part of the read-on for this program, and I was a senior civilian at the time. So the documentation is there. There's right now a lot of folks in the media that actually have emails they've been able to get through Freedom of Information Act. There was actually the Air Force OSI investigation that said, Lue Elizondo was being the director of ATTIP. When they tried to investigate me to see if I did any type of malfeasance, the result was no, I didn't do anything wrong. But in there it says specifically that Elizondo was discussing about the ATTIP program, the UFO program, when he was part of it. So the long story short, I'm going to save you a whole long discussion about it. But I'm confident with myself. Again, I don't really give a damn what people think about me. That's not why I'm doing this. I could have saved my 3 years ago. People, now the information that's coming forward, I could have done 3 years ago, but I would have done it at the expense of people on the inside, and I'm not that kind of guy. I am not going to throw somebody under the bus or expose somebody just to save my own credibility or save my own ass. So if people are expecting that from me, they're going to wait a really long time. There's enough substantial information out there. Dana White already confirmed it. And then you have this Susan Go who comes in and frankly, excuse my language, but doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground. I don't know where she's getting fed this information because one day she says ATTIP has nothing to do with UFOs, and it comes back and says, oh, yes, it does. And before that, I think they said, well, it was advanced aviation when it wasn't. It was always advanced aerospace. The number of times that they have flip-flopped back and forth at this point, even more important, there's a, and I won't say who it is, but there's a reporter that recently got an email where they said, well, what does it matter what Lue did anyways, because that was 3 years ago, basically trying to pass a buck. So, if anybody wants to know what I did, I highly doubt that the committees on the Hill would ever let me in, and I'd still have a security clearance to brief about ATTIP if I was never part of the program, right? And it wasn't about UFOs. I mean, that's just common sense. And my current involvement with individuals that were part of that program, I mean, at this point, you'd have to do such mental gymnastics to try to explain that away. I wouldn't even know where to start. So my bigger concern on this whole issue that's not about me is the fact that the Department of Defense still can't get their story straight. That for me is a problem because it's either A, willful, and if it's willful, we got a problem,
right?
Or it's pure dysfunction. And if it's dysfunction, we still got a problem, right? So either way, that needs to be fixed. So either fire the people that are in there now that are not doing their job or don't know how to do it, or you get somebody to come in from down above and shake them and say, stop doing that. Stop playing games, because all you're doing is sowing the seed of distrust with the American people. You're actually breaking down the credibility and authority of the Department of Defense when you do that. When you have a senator, the senior senator of our country, come out and say, I mean, I don't know what else you need. He was the guy who started this program to begin with. But again, Jimmy, this conversation shouldn't be about me. This is precisely part of the problem. We should be talking about the big issue here about UFO disclosure. Otherwise, I'll start my own radio show and I'll make it all about me. That's not that's not why I got into this. And I knew going in that I was going to face a tremendous amount of pushback. I knew this was going to happen. In fact, I stated it very clearly. I think it was maybe even at the MUFON several years ago. I said, here's what's going to happen. First of all, they're going to admit yes. And then they're going to realize what they just did, and they're going to come back and they're going to deny it. And then when they can't deny it, they're going to make counter accusations against me. And then when they can't do that, they're going to try to ignore it. And all these things have exactly played out. It's almost like a playbook, precisely as I predicted. And so now they're at the point where they're just saying, we don't want to talk about it. Let's move on to the next big thing. Yeah, UAPs. Yeah, ATTIP. Okay, Elizondo, but let's talk about something else. And that's kind of been their latest MO.
Now, we need to take our break, and let's go ahead and do that now. Our guest tonight is Lue Elizondo. And Lou, when we come back, I want to talk about how investigating a UFO and a UFO report goes down. We will do all of that next. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Lue Elizondo. We'll get to more with Lue in just a second. I want to talk to you about Virtual Shield VPN. It was announced last week that the data of 2.3 million users has been leaked after a hacker found a backdoor into a popular dating site. The personal data included names, Facebook IDs, emails, birth dates, location data. The data was then uploaded to a public hacking forum for anyone to download. If you want to prevent attacks like this from happening to you, I highly recommend Virtual Shield VPN. It's all simple to do. You can click on the link in the video description box below. You can also go to virtualshield.com/fade to black. When you do that, you will get Virtual Shield VPN for 50% off today. Go and do it now. Our guest tonight, Lue Elizondo. And, okay, Lue, help me understand. I'm so fascinated with this. When the announcement came December 17th in the New York Times, 2017, about, the secret UFO program at the Pentagon, I'm picturing in my mind offices in the E-wing, right? In the E-ring.
It was actually the C-ring, but
okay.
You're not far.
okay. So you did have offices in the Pentagon.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the C-ring, and how did that go down? Would you have different incident reports come in the door? How did that happen? And how many investigators were working under you to do these investigations?
Sure. Well, I prefer to say with me. Anybody who's ever worked with me knows that I run a very flat organization. We're a team. So even though I was the senior guy and technically in charge, we really made decisions collectively. It was really a mutual effort. And think of an onion. You have at the very center of the onion, you have your core group of people that are part of your organization and your effort. And then as you go out in these layers, subsequent layers of the onion, you have support mechanisms. You have people in different agencies that have a certain amount of expertise, and they might help you on this particular aspect or that particular aspect. For example, analyzing photographic evidence and videos, or taking reports from their organization and getting it to you. You ask the question of how do we get information? Well, the answer is not so simple. We got it through multiple different ways. Anybody who's ever spent time in the government, you have these systems to communicate back and forth from the headquarters out to the field. And some of these are unclassified systems, some of these are classified networks, and it depended really at where we were getting the information from. For example, and I'm going to say this in very vague terms. I don't want anybody to say, oh, that's how it happened. This is just an example. You might get an email coming in on a secure network from, let's say, the captain of a ship, and the email says something to the effect of, "Hey, we're seeing some pretty weird stuff out here, some pretty strange lights, and we would really like your assistance on this. We have some aircraft that took some footage. We have a couple of pilots that had eyes down on it. We got some radar tracks." And then, of course, you would send out the team or ask them to send you the information, depending on what logistically was more feasible, right? And so this information would get collected and collated and then brought up to us, where we would analyze it, we would look at it, and then if we had follow-up questions, we could do that. If we had to interview people, we would do that. I have got to be very careful here and not say who and how, because those mechanisms, I suspect, are still being used by the task force today. So I don't want to compromise those. But it's really no different than you'd expect in any other type of activity at the Pentagon, right? So you have information coming in, you have direction going out, and then you have briefings being generated and then provided up to senior level management. In this particular case, very senior level management.
So there was an office door with ATTIP on the outside of the office door?
No, absolutely not. So I had two responsibilities in the Pentagon. I often tell people that in our generation, you remember the Life cereal commercial, Mikey, the kid that they did? "Oh, we don't like this. Here, give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything." That was kind of my job. They gave me every crappy portfolio that nobody ever wanted to handle. Somehow it just found its way to me. So at the time, I was the director of National Programs Special Management Staff, and I had one core mission for the OUSDI, and then under the Secretary of Defense and his staff, OSD staff, I had the other mission. I had the ATTIP mission. There was not, even for my primary portfolio, my other portfolio, there was never a sign on the door that said Director, National Programs Special Management Staff, or ATTIP, or Guantanamo Bay, or anything like that. That's not really how the Pentagon works. You have numbers that will tell you the office, and then usually you'll get some sort of cryptic message. "Hey, we've got a meeting in 2 Bravo 335 Alpha." And if you know how the Pentagon works, then okay, I've got a meeting on, in this particular office, and you go to that office and it's just literally a number on a door, usually with a big heavy vault lock on it. You knock, you come in, they check your badge, make sure you have the security clearance, and then you might walk into another room that's even another, what we call a vault within a skiff, and that's where you do your business.
Were you known as, in a joking way, like the UFO guys? What was the chatter at the Pentagon? That door, that's the Fox Mulder group.
There were a few people, especially even within my staff, that would chuckle. There is, I'm not going to say which, you can probably fill in the blanks. But as a joke, they had, there's a very popular program about UFOs, particularly aliens, and the history as it might relate to humankind. You can fill in the blank which show I'm talking about, right, on a major network. And one of the hosts is very well known for a very unique hairstyle. And there was a picture of that always placed in my office as a joke by some of my folks, as kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, a little bit of ribbing, healthy ribbing that you'd expect in a military environment, right?
I can get that signed for you if you would like. Yeah. I can get that signed for you. The other part of it is the ATTIP investigations, and then when TTSA started, of course, we have, the Nimitz and the Roosevelt and that. Was that part of the ATTIP investigations going on at the Pentagon? And B, okay, it's a two-part question, why did that Pentagon information stop with the Nimitz and Roosevelt? Why weren't you able to pull in more ATTIP investigations that were going on at the Pentagon?
Well, I didn't pull them out. The media did. So kudos to the media. And I suspect that the media is going to be successful in the future pulling out more. This is an evolving story. Obviously, we didn't just look at the Nimitz and stop at the Roosevelt. This was an evolving effort. There were many, many instances that were recorded and reported about.
Okay, so my question is, just for clarification, the Nimitz and Roosevelt were part of the ATTIP investigations, correct?
Absolutely, unequivocally, yes.
And then the other investigations that ATTIP was working on, that we haven't seen. Was there a conscious decision not to pull that stuff forward, or did you not have that data available to you?
Well, you have to be careful because a lot of that stuff is extremely classified. The Nimitz was historical. The video had already been leaked some time ago, and it was unclassified information residing on a classified system. So that's fairly easy to dislodge and get the approvals for unlimited distribution through the process, which is the DOPSA process. But there's other stuff that where the metadata on the video or the photographs is far more sensitive. It's certainly very classified. You classify something for two reasons: to protect sources and methods. And the nature of those videos were very, very sensitive. And by the way, it's not just what you're seeing on the video; it's where the video was taken, under what circumstances what was taken, the audio that's on the video, right? So there's a lot of stuff there that's in videos that is really hard to clean up if you wanted to get that released from, let's say a top secret level all the way down to an unlimited release at the unclassified level. That's a pretty difficult effort to do because you have to go through, and I'm not going to waste your time with details, but you got to go through the original classification authority for approval, for example, the OCA, and then you have to get foreign disclosure approval, and you've got to go to DOPSA, and there's all these little hoops you have to jump. The higher classification information is and data, the more hoops you have to jump through to try to get that information released.
Did you see video evidence while at ATTIP that freaked you out? And what I mean by that, not the Nimitz videos, that stuff's not freak out material. It's not. Did you see a black triangle? Did you see something close up? Did you see something that you could classify as a classic flying saucer? Things that the public has never seen.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to go further than that. Absolutely. That is the reason why I am so compelled to do what I'm doing. I know what I've seen. I know others have seen it as well. And that's why when the Congress people go into these briefings and they're kind of like, I'm going to go take a briefing, and they come out and they say, holy cow, we got to take this seriously. They're not looking at a grainy video taken during the Nimitz cruise. They're looking at data and information that is very classified with a much greater degree of fidelity that allows them to then make that decision. By the way, at a unanimous level, they've all come out saying, holy smokes, we need to look at this. And some have even come out and said, this ain't ours. These are pretty bold statements coming from your elected officials, whereas 2 years ago, they would have laughed. You wouldn't even taken an audience with you. They'd have laughed you right out of the room. And now they're having a very sober conversation about this. You have a task force that has been established under no other person than the Deputy Secretary of Defense himself, the DepSecDef. And by the way, now there's a report due to Congress in, I think, 143 days from none other than the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence. Basically, all 17 intelligence, well, now 18 intelligence organizations fall under that one person, the DNI, and that is the person responsible for putting this report together for Congress. So you tell me, do you think that 3 fuzzy videos can get Congress to do what it did? Probably not.
Probably not. Are you suggesting? I'm saying suggesting. Are you suggesting that Marco Rubio has seen a black triangle, crystal clear, high def video?
I am absolutely not going to speak for Senator Marco Rubio. I respect him tremendously for coming out and having this conversation and proving this is truly a bipartisan issue, because you had Senator Harry Reid, but most people forget that you also had Senator Stevens and Inouye and John Glenn behind this effort, right? You have other senators and congressmen who've come out and said, hey, we need this briefing too. And now you have Senator Marco Rubio from my home state coming out and saying, yeah, this is important. We need to figure this out. I mean, that is a hell of a brave position to take as a senator. That takes a lot of chutzpah, to be honest with you. And I think that should be an indicator of the level of briefing that they're receiving in the information.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the Tic Tac video to get him to do this. I'm fairly confident in saying that. And then we have the very curious quote from Dr. Eric Davis. And you know where I'm going with this, but he, in the last New York Times article by Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal, very excellent. But at the bottom, there's this little quote from Dr. Eric Davis saying that he briefed the Senate and told them that we are in possession of flying saucers. Right now, you can't, there's no way to read between the lines on this. It was a very clear quote, and the New York Times had to vet the quote. They're not going to put that in the New York Times without having something sourced there. They were comfortable with it, correct? What's Eric Davis talking about?
Well, I'd have to defer to my friend Eric Davis. He said what he said. If you know Eric Davis, you'll realize that he's got a really interesting personality trait. He's one of the few people, I often joke, on the planet that can't lie. There's a quirk there in the personality that the guy, I think you could put, like I've said before, you could put a knife to the guy's throat and he's going to die because the guy, you could try to force him to lie and he can't do it. So I've had the honor and privilege to work both directly and indirectly with Eric. He is a man of utmost credibility, and he has served this nation honorably. There are things that he has done for this nation that he will never take credit for, but I've seen the reporting and know exactly what he's done. And he's a true asset to our nation. And so when he tells you that he has done something, I would take that to the bank.
Why I just want your opinion on this. Why hasn't a journalist out there, a reporter, seized on that quote? It may be the most incredible quote in human history if we really take it at face value. Why hasn't anybody taken this a step further? It's extraordinary information.
Well, I mean, don't look now, Jimmy, but you are. You're taking it forward. You just asked me that question in front of who knows how many members in your audience are listening. You just laid down the gauntlet. So I don't know why. Let me turn the tables and ask you, Jimmy. I mean, you're a guy in the media. Why haven't you asked this question before? I think it's a great question.
Yeah, I've made statements over the years. I have a large audience, both here and over at Coast to Coast. I've said some extraordinary things. I didn't get anything from the media. I've always found that very, very interesting, and I don't know why. But to take this question one step further, Lue Elizondo, is our government in possession of crashed, retrieved, landed, traded flying saucers and technology not of this earth?
I can't answer that question as stated. If you want to rephrase the question, I will do my best to provide you an answer. But as stated, I cannot answer that question.
Are we in possession of a flying saucer? Our government?
Let me say this. Let me put it this way. It is my personal belief that we are in possession of tangible evidence. Call it material, call it whatever you want. And that is all I'm prepared to say at this time. Well, I have to be very, very careful not to cross the line. I know people want to know. I understand people say, oh, well, you keep hiding behind your NDA as an excuse. No, I'm not, actually. I don't want to go to jail, frankly. And second of all, I don't want to betray the trust of the American people. I have a security clearance, which isn't just given from the government. It has been entrusted upon me by the American people, and I'm not going to betray that just to go ahead and get a get a few likes, if you will, on Twitter. I take that oath seriously, and when I'm finally relieved of that, or the information becomes officially declassified, then I will talk all day about it. But until that time comes, I have to be very, very careful, very mindful of everything I say. And I don't want to jeopardize the momentum we have gained over the last 3 years by saying something that has the potential to halt, stop, hinder the progress that we're making.
If you were in possession of the video, documents, the smoking gun, and files, would you take the path of Edward Snowden? Would you be a martyr? Would you present the information?
Snowden wasn't a martyr.
But you understand the way that I'm framing
Snowden was
this.
a traitor.
Well,
I do. I understand what you're saying, but let me be clear. Snowden was a leaker, and he was a traitor. He wasn't a martyr. Even though he provided information that provided us insight on things that were happening, to include FISA, that's not the right way to go about making an issue. You don't reveal your information, all you have, and your dirty laundry to your enemy. That's the wrong approach to take. If I was in possession of those videos, I would do exactly what I'm doing right now. Continue to push the system to do what is intended to do. It is not up to me, Lue Elizondo, to tell the world everything I know about UFOs. It's up to the world to then pressure Congress, to enable Congress to then pressure the executive department to do to provide what they know about UFOs. That's what needs to happen. Otherwise, I become this demigod of a personality, and that's not what this is about. This journey cannot be about any one single person. It definitely cannot be just about me. It has to be about the collective will of the people, and this is what I keep trying to drive home. It is up to the government to work the way it was intended to do, and then provide us the information that we are seeking. It is not up to Lue Elizondo or Chris Mellon or Tom DeLonge or anybody else or Jimmy Church to do that. It is up to our government. And so we have to do our best to enable our government to function the way we expect it to function. Look, in 144 days, a report is due to Congress, whether we like it or not. Now, maybe they'll ask for an extension, who knows? But the last thing you want to do is provide Congress some half-baked report that doesn't have all the information in there that, by the way, frankly, they deserve to have, right? That's how you make the system work, by getting the information to the right people at the right time so they can make the right decisions. So that's what I would do. No, I would not repeat anything that Edward Snowden or Manning did. I find it absolutely reprehensible and despicable. I know there's a lot of people out there that may chew on me for that, but I don't ever think there's a time to betray your country, ever.
What do you expect to be in that report? And before you answer, it's very interesting in the wording there, that there is the public section, and then they are reserving a classified section in the report. Is that an out, not to reveal anything, or the juicy stuff? What do you expect in the public side of that report?
Well, look, there's been reports before, national intelligence estimates, where we talk about North Korean nuclear capability. And there's a lot of information that gets out into the public sector that's unclassified, that's still very meaningful, that's quote unquote juicy. I think we sometimes confuse classified information with being juicy. That's not always the case. A lot of classified information is actually very dull and boring. It's just extremely technical. And so I think what you might see in the classified portion is that part of the data that involves specific sensor units, specific locations, specific times, specific call signs, specific capabilities. That is all very sensitive information that you don't necessarily want to getting out to the public, not because we don't trust the American people, but there's no way to tell the American people and not have our foreign adversaries also informed. So there is a deliberate effort by the government to safeguard this information, which I think they should. And then that information which does not need to be classified, which, by the way, people don't realize there's actually rules and regulations that prohibit the indiscriminate classification of information. You can't do it. You have to follow very specific guidelines for that to be classified. I don't anticipate you're going to have in one report a response to the American people saying nothing to see here, folks, and then in a classified annex saying, oh my God, here it is, and here's the mothership. I don't expect that. I think, well, you know what? I'm not going to go any further than that. I'm not going to opine on what I think might be in that report, but I think it will be consistent. I will tell you, I don't think 144 days is long enough to provide a comprehensive report. It takes longer to build a house in some cases. I'm not sure how you're going to go to all 18 intelligence members of the intelligence community and get all the information that they have, which they themselves don't always know where that information is, or even if they have it, right? They're little enclaves, little pockets. That takes time. That takes coordination. And you got to make sure everybody who's getting this information has the appropriate security clearance. It's not just top secret SCI. Maybe it's SAP, maybe it's CAP, maybe it's who knows. There's all sorts of compensatory markings and levels of read on that not any one individual necessarily has or knows. Chris Mellon said himself, you would have think being the guy running all the SAP, Special Access Programs for the Department of Defense, he would have known about our type of effort, but he didn't, right? So this kind of stuff flies under the radar all the time. And I'm not justifying that. I know people are going to say, well, that shouldn't be. You're right, it shouldn't be. But it is. And that's one of the things we're trying to fix now by putting some sort of mechanism in place that puts some sort of administrative oversight and someone in a position of authority to say, be the daddy bear, say, hey, that information belongs to me. Ultimately, that comes to me. And that's what we're trying to achieve.
I've got about 2 minutes before the break. Has the UAP task force reached out to you and Chris Mellon for information or consulting for this report?
I can't answer that. That would be up for the U.S. government to answer that question. I'm not saying yes or no. It's just that is a question you would have to bring up to the U.S. government.
Great answer. So the answer is yes. Okay. Well,
I didn't say that.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Lue Elizondo. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Lou right there on Twitter, very active, at Lue Elizondo. We've got everything up in our feed. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs. including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Lue Elizondo. What a great conversation. I expected this, and so did you. And I want to take the opportunity, Lue, in this next segment to discuss disclosure. And if you would, I ask this of every guest on the show, everyone. What is your definition of disclosure?
Wow. I've been asked that a few times, and I hate to say this, but I think my definition keeps changing. Disclosure for me is, I've always said it's a process, it's not an event. And I think in 5 years from now, we're going to look back and we're going to realize we are actually living through disclosure right now. Disclosure for me is basically an acknowledgement by the cognizant authority to say that these things are real, without ascribing a narrative, without ascribing an origin, without ascribing anything else, just recognizing the reality that UAPs are real, and they have been real for a very long time, and that it's something that we need to pay attention to. I think for me, that's the goalpost, and I think to some degree we've achieved it already. You already have key people in our government acknowledging it. So I think you're living through disclosure right now. People say, "Well, I can't wait for disclosure." Well, you may be waiting a long time, because if your definition of disclosure is a UFO landing on the White House lawn, that may never happen. I think disclosure is the reason why it's so hard to describe is because it means something different to everybody out there. You can ask anybody on the street, and they'll probably give you a different goalpost for what disclosure is. I also think we have to be careful, because confirmation is not necessarily disclosure. I hear the terms utilized quite a bit. Oh, confirmation and disclosure. But to me, confirmation is the confirming of a pre-existing narrative that it is this way. And I am not sure we have enough information or data yet to have a narrative. I know there's a lot of people out there that think they have a narrative and they have the answers. I don't. I think, when people ask me, where are we on the journey? Are we at the beginning of the end? And I say no. Well, they say, well, are we at the end of the beginning? And I say no. I don't mean to be discouraging, but I think we're at the beginning of the beginning. But that's a good thing, because that means there's a whole lot more to come. That means there's a whole lot more understanding, and with understanding comes opportunity. So, I'm not an all doom and gloom kind of guy. I try to be pragmatic and practical as much as possible, and not allow my emotions to lead, my decision-making process, unless it comes to my daughters, of course. Then that's a different story. But, then I'm definitely an emotional guy. But in this particular topic, I think it's important that we let the data speak for itself. And there's still a lot of data that hasn't been presented yet. So my word of advice would be, try to resist the urge as much as possible of having some sort of preconceived notion or narrative, and take a breath for a moment, step back, and look at the new data that's coming forward. Now, maybe it'll reconfirm the existing narrative you already have. That's possible. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it helps inform something else and you begin to evolve your position, which is also, a good thing. As a human species, we're constantly learning. And that's something that we should always encourage our fellow brothers and sisters on this planet to always do. Learning is an innate part of being a human being, just like breathing and just like eating. It's who we are. It's in our DNA.
Before TTSA, prior to 2017, did ATTIP have an interest in Chris Bledsoe, and did you meet with him before the forming of TTSA?
I did not. I did not. That's not to say that other elements within the OSAP portfolio did prior to me, but I wasn't really part of OSAP. I was tangentially attached to it, but really my focus has always primarily been on ATTIP. And the Bledsoe was not, the Bledsoe's family were not part of that. The reason why, look, it's very practical. It's not that we didn't or did believe them. We're a DoD organization operating under Title 10 authorities, meaning Title 10, meaning we can only talk to military or military-related people and have access to that information and the data collection platforms. We couldn't just go out to private citizens, to Joe Schmo or Jane Smith and say, hey, tell me what you know about UFOs or what have you seen or anything paranormal. We weren't allowed to do that. We had to keep very narrowly focused because when you present that data to DoD leadership, there's all sorts of considerations there, not just the validity and the veracity of the information that you're collecting, but there's rules and laws. I can't just go out and collect U.S. persons' information. I said at the beginning of this broadcast, there's collection, retention, and dissemination of U.S. persons' information that is very, very restrictive. Any intelligence organization collecting that, it's a big no-no unless you have very specific approvals to do that. And then there's even a time limit. So we couldn't go out just willy-nilly and talk to anybody. That wasn't possible. We'd get slapped with a Procedure 15 violation very, very quickly. So to put it bluntly, the answer is no.
Have you?
But let me caveat that I want to make this very important statement, please, just for a moment to your audience.
Sure.
That doesn't necessarily mean that what is occurring at the Bledsoes is or is not real. It's just simply we didn't look at it because the data wasn't within the subset that we were allowed to look at, if that makes sense.
Understood. Have you ever seen a UFO?
I mean, Jimmy, that was kind of my job for almost 10 years. Yeah, I saw a lot of them.
Out at night, during the day, accidents.
Oh, so you're talking aside from my job.
I mean, your eyeballs.
Private citizen.
Yes.
Well, I just want to be specific, right? I don't want anybody to read between the lines here. I would prefer to buy a vowel, and maybe the next time we have a chat, answer that question. I'm very careful not to superimpose my own personal experiences on the data collection. I don't ever want to prejudice the jury, so to speak, in the collection of information. It's important that my own personal opinions and positions are not factored into it. Look at it like any court of law. As an investigator, your job is to collect the facts and preserve the facts and then present those facts to a jury. In this case, the American people are the jury. Okay, my job is simple: collect the truth, speak the truth. That's it. And then I take that information and I provide it in a consumable manner for the jury, in this case, the American people, to have a conversation about.
As an employee of our government in the Department of Defense, that was your career. One of the things, all young men do this, myself included. We take great pride in knowing aircraft and helicopters and rockets and the names of astronauts. It's what we do, right?
It is.
So you're out there and you see something in the sky when, as a professional, you can identify anything, right? Soviet helicopter, Brazilian training jet aircraft. You know what you're looking at. When you see something in the sky that you can't explain, what goes through your mind?
So, Jimmy, I'm gonna your audience can't see this, but I'm gonna show you real quick. These are official Department of Defense identification cards, and what you can see here are the profiles of aircraft. Right? This is a Russian Hind helicopter.
Absolutely.
And you can see the stack of this. Right? These are the training aids that our military servicemen and women in uniform are trained to identify the difference between a European Tornado, an F-16, an Su-22, and a MiG-25 from 20 miles away. And by the way, from multiple different angles, from the bottom, from the side, from the top, from the front. That is very much what our trained observers are trained to do. And you're right. When you see something that doesn't look like anything we have, it doesn't even have wings, cockpit, engine, control surfaces, and yet somehow is able to defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity and pull G-forces in excess of 500, 600, 700 Gs and perform at speeds of up to 13,000 miles an hour in our atmosphere. That's a great question, isn't it? That makes you scratch your head to say, okay, what are we dealing with?
Is there a Lazar Sport model flying saucer in that deck of cards? I'm just asking for a friend.
Well, there is not, but also let me caveat that I've never had the opportunity to meet Mr. Lazar, so I don't know much about him. I suspect your next question is going to be, what do I think about him? And
No. That's drama. We don't need to go there. But the other part of this, though, is when we're talking about disclosure here, and when you see for yourself something, you don't necessarily need the President of the United States to step up to a podium on live television and say we are not alone, because as a civilian, you've seen what you have seen. Is that pushing part of your effort here, knowing privately what you have seen, and then the other side of it where you're trying to get those answers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a global phenomenon, Jimmy. This isn't something new. This isn't something that was just recognized when ATTIP came about, or the program before that, or Blue Book before that, or when I was over in Italy, I had someone show me an old scroll, and it was a discussion between a Roman soldier and a Roman general. This is a 2,000-year-old document in Latin. And it's a conversation where they describe these things called the eclipus. Eclipus is the Roman shield. And they describe these flaming Roman shields in the sky that would follow them from battle space to battle space. This is important. This is why we are engaging in the Wapaton project with the indigenous people, because they have thousands of years of oral tradition going back much longer than pre-recorded history. And I think it's important, because some of their observations, they're trained observers too. They're just trained observers from their own perspective. They know the land and their area like nobody else, right? Just like a pilot may know the airspace better than anybody else. So it's important for us to try to look at this information from a comprehensive, a holistic perspective, and see if we can see, and by the way, it turns out we can, the same observables that we identified in ATTIP are all there. They go back to the Middle Ages, and they go back to the Roman times. They even go back to some of the pre-recorded history that's now part of the oral traditions of our indigenous people. It's all there, and so it's for me it's fascinating, and it is something that compels me to continue to push this topic forward. And by the way, you're part of that equation too. Your audience is part of that equation. We're all part of that equation. And this is a topic that belongs to all of us, not one organization, as I said, or government or institution or person. This is we all own this together.
Now, I can't let you get away without talking about the Tic Tac. So, in the limited time that we have left, I'm going to start with this.
Are you kicking me off, Jimmy?
No. Hey, you want to go into overtime? I've got. You can tell your wife. You can blame me. You can blame me. We can certainly do that. But the Tic Tac, is the Tic Tac not of this earth? The Nimitz encounter, that the Tic Tac, is that not of this earth?
Jimmy, forgive me for saying this. I don't want to correct you publicly, but you're asking the wrong question. The question should be, is the Tic Tac man-made? Or is the Tic Tac U.S. or is it Tic Tac U.S. or foreign adversary technology? The answer is no. But when you say, is it from this earth, we don't know. That's this is why what we've always stated before from our position, we don't know if these things are from outer space, inner space, or frankly, the space in between. As you begin to understand the world of quantum physics, there's a whole lot of reality around us, and we don't interact with it. We're used to the Newtonian understanding of the world, physics, where, gravity, an apple falls from a tree. And then along comes Einstein several hundred years later and talks about this thing called relativity, where space-time is actually flexible. And only in the last 20, 30 years have we really begun to explore the world of quantum physics, the quantum world, the quantum states. And we're realizing all these realities, as opposite as they may seem to us, are actually very much part of the natural environment. And so my point being, there may be realities all around us that we simply don't perceive. We're very limited as a species. We live in a three-dimensional space, X, Y, Z axis, and time, which is a function of, I guess, of the fourth dimension, and that's expressed in a linear, if you will, linear motion for us. But that's not to say that there aren't other things all around us. We sense the universe through the five primary senses of sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing, and yet we know that we only perceive 1% of 1% of the universe that's around us. Most of the universe remains completely invisible to us. And I don't mean the universe out there. I mean the universe right here. Let me put that into context. We know less than 5% about our deepest oceans, right? We've mapped, but we really don't even have a good understanding of what lives in our own planet, let alone anywhere else. When you look at the human being, we are exactly in the middle of the scale of the universe. If you were to take us, being the smallest thing, and look at the grandiosity of the universe, which is 13.5 billion light years in this direction and 13.5 billion light years in that direction, right? 27 billion light years in distance, which is a lot. We seem pretty small. By that scale, there is equally the same amount of space inside of the human body. There is this entire universe inside of us. When you talk about not just the cells of the body or even the atom, if you start talking about subatomic particles, you start talking about muons and quarks, this is reality. This is real, even though we can't interact with it. There's this entire universe inside each and every one of us. Now, I don't want to get too off the beaten path here, but my point being is that there is so much we don't understand about the universe, let alone our own selves. So I think it is foolhardy for us to even begin to say definitively that, well, the buck stops with us. If we can't see it, touch, taste, or smell, it doesn't exist. Well, that's clearly not true. There are things coursing through our body right now that you can't perceive, but they're just as real. Wi-Fi and cell signal and emissions coming in from satellites and radar waves. All this is very real and yet beyond our perception. We look at the world through a very narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum, electro-optical spectrum, forgive me, called light. That's it. And that, when you look at the grand scale, is just a sliver of what's really out there. So I guess my question to that is, going back to your original question, are they from Earth? Are they not from Earth? Forgive me. I don't know. Because it's not an either or question. It's not necessarily, well, if they're not from here, they must be from outer space. That's not true. There's a whole bunch of others. There's option C and D and E and F all the way to Z of what it could be. And so let's not limit ourselves by putting these artificial limitations. Well, if it's not here, it must be out there, right? We tend to be binary creatures. We look at everything in extremes. It's either left or right, up or down, hot or cold, good or bad. And that's probably because we're cardiosocial animals. Some scientists believe, neuroscientists believe, the first 9 months of all humans are for the most part, in our mother's womb. And the heartbeat that we hear, that on-off, that binary, sets the stage for the way we think as a species, right? We look at everything in terms of this either on or off, so to speak. But in reality, the universe doesn't work that way. The universe isn't binary. The universe operates in fractals. The universe operates in diagonals. It manifests itself in all sorts of magical ways. One can look at. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well,
I know I'm probably going a little bit too deep here. But.
No, everything that you just said, we discuss on this show a few nights a week. Okay, so no, you're not venturing into a territory that this audience doesn't understand. But bringing up the universe, the Tic Tac is not a United States thing. It's a global thing.
It's not a United States thing, and it's not a foreign adversarial technology. So what it is, we don't know, but it ain't ours, and it ain't theirs.
Would there be a cooperation with China or with the Soviet Union with what the Tic Tac represents? Is there back channel communication about this data?
I can't discuss that, but what I can say is if you look at the recent headlines of Japan reaching out and establishing a bilateral information sharing relationship with the United States specifically for the purposes of sharing UAP information, that's probably a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, and is it something that you don't necessarily want another an adversary to have information to as well? Is it in our best interest to keep our data to ourselves?
Well, sure. And remember, today's friend could be tomorrow's adversary, and tomorrow's adversary could be our friend. Look at Vietnam for a second, right? I mean, in the 60s, when your father was in, it was a pretty tough place. And we left under some really bad circumstances. And now they're a wonderful trading partner. In fact, we go there all the time to go to their beaches and tourism, and we have a wonderful relationship with Vietnam. So, the problem is when you're talking about governments, you're really talking about people, and people are very fickle. People run hot and cold all the time. And whenever you have relationships with other countries, unfortunately, it's usually out of convenience, not really out of sincere friendship, most of the time. And that's just the way governments are, unfortunately. I am hopeful that a topic like this might be able to bridge that gap and force enemies to become friends. Let's look at this, Jimmy. You and I are having a conversation right now. Never in a million years would people expect you and I to share the same airwaves, right? I know philosophically you had a significant difference of opinion as I do, but that's okay, because we can find common ground in this topic. And just like you and I are able to have an amicable conversation right now over the airwaves, governments should be able to do the same thing. If we can do it, they sure as hell can do it. I don't know why not. So when I said before there's a lot of hope there and there's a lot of opportunity, that's what I meant. This is an area for us to this is a global issue. We should, just like climate change, we should handle this from a global perspective. And how wonderful it would be that we could actually work with Russia or China on this topic. And yes, maybe even Iran or North Korea. And for just a moment, put aside our differences and let's share our commonalities as a species, not as a country, not as a nation, but truly as a civilization.
As a planet. And now there's another interesting thing here. And I know that you've thought about this, but you've never been asked this question.
I'm a Gemini, and I like long walks on the beach.
Yes, you do. Is this? I find it interesting and beyond coincidence that both of these incidents happened with the Navy, with battle groups off the coast of the United States. The Tic Tac didn't happen over Los Angeles. The Tic Tac didn't happen over Wichita. It happened with the military. Why? I mean, that's the question. Why?
Sure.
There's got to be an answer there.
Well, it could be that the pervasiveness of military technology happens to be in places where most people aren't, and it just happens to be a hotspot. Or when you look at a nuclear carrier group, you realize you have a huge nuclear profile. You've got ships that are powered by nuclear technology. You have ships with the capability to have nuclear weapons on board. And then you have submarines that are not only nuclear powered, but in some cases may also have nuclear weapons on board. So in that small of a footprint of a fleet, you have more nuclear technology than you have probably in the entire state of New York. So is it possible that there is some congruency there, that there is an effort to conduct some sort of surveillance operation on our nuclear capabilities? We've seen them over our nuclear silos. We see them over our nuclear-powered capabilities. Is that one of the connections we're seeing? And I'm going to leave that question to you to answer.
Well, is it also inside the realm of possibility that Northrop or another aerospace technology company is testing their technology on us to see what can be read on radar, what pilots would witness, what the crews would witness, and something that we would use in a theater later against an adversary?
Yeah, so that red teaming that you're talking about is done with tremendous amount of coordination. The last thing you ever want to do is fly some sort of super secret technology next to a battle carrier group or a carrier battle group. That's suicide. You are going to get shot down out of the sky at some point, or they're going to launch a missile at you, or they're going to hit you with a Sea Whiz. You will not survive very long. That is a dumb place to do it. If you want to test the capabilities, you do it at a place like Area 51, where you can control the environment and you don't have to worry about fishermen out on fishing boats or people on the coast or other people by mistake coming across your technology. I can tell you that is not the way the Department of Defense works. Absolutely. Do we test our technology on ourselves? Sure, but we coordinate it because we don't want to have a mishap where all of a sudden we have a collision with one of these things and we kill a pilot. Or worse, it crashes and now that technology is all over the ocean and now the Russians can come by with a submarine and scoop it up. That's not the way we do business. And anybody who says that doesn't know how the government works.
Would the Pentagon look to another private group out there like TTSA to share information and funnel stuff through?
I can't answer that. That's a question you'd have to ask the government.
Well, and you understand why.
Oh, I do. Sure.
Why?
No, I think it's a good question. I can't answer that.
With why did going back to this subject completely, it seems that TTSA took their foot off the gas when it came to bringing information forward. We continually went back to the Tic Tac and the Roosevelt and those three videos and the testimony and all of that was excellent. But that was 3 years ago, almost 4. We're in the 4th year now. And it seems that TTSA took the foot off the gas. Was it because they didn't have anything else to bring forward? Or is TTSA sitting on stuff that we will see in the future?
Jimmy, another great question. You'd have to ask the folks at TTSA. I can't speak on behalf of TTSA. I can tell you, the things that Chris Mellon and I are working on are absolutely pushing the ball down the field. What people have noticed probably about us, we tend to go dark for a little while before another major, if you will, announcement that comes. We are absolutely engaged in the fight on a daily, if not hourly basis. This is what we do. But what TTSA is doing now, now that they're focusing on the entertainment piece, I really can't tell you because I really don't know. I don't have insight into their daily operations as I did last time, for the last few years. They're kind of doing their thing and we're doing our thing. And that's where we are.
I want to thank you. What a great conversation tonight. I look forward to the next time. And I have to ask the obvious. What are you working on now and what is in the future? I love watching you squirm, by the way. That's pretty cool.
If your audience only had a camera, they could see what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of fidgeting and trying to look for a way out. So what am I working on now? We are working on a permanent solution, and I'll leave it at that. Where are we going for the future? What can we expect? Hopefully a permanent solution.
What does that even mean? You should run for office. I mean, what does that mean?
No, you don't want me running for office. I'm not sure I'd get very many votes. It means that the things that we had set out to do originally, we are still pursuing with great vigor. And I think it's fair to say that a task force by government terms has always been designed to be a temporary capability. But this is a persistent problem that we're facing with UAPs. It's a persistent question. And I'm not sure a temporary capability is the best way to address a persistent problem. I think you need a persistent capability to address a persistent problem.
Did you feel that's an interesting answer, Lou? Did you feel that TTSA was holding you back? Was that it? Because you just said we're trying to complete what we started. Why not stay with the team and keep this moving forward? Did you felt constricted?
TTSA wasn't holding us back. It just shifted its focus into an area that was considered still helpful, but was I think probably more appropriate for any company, any business that's trying to seek a return on investment. A lot of the efforts Chris and I are part of are long-term, long-duration efforts where the return on investment isn't necessarily monetary, and it's a little bit more perhaps esoteric. And so my leaving TTSA was a mutual decision between TTSA and myself in order to allow Chris and I and others to continue to pursue this effort from the area of expertise that we bring to the table, right? While allowing TTSA to fulfill its mission and its commitment to its stockholders. But much beyond that, you'd really have to talk to TTSA. Again, I'm not at liberty to discuss TTSA business because I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, sure. Do you think that personally, because you did go public after into the private sector after leaving the Department of Defense, that do you still have connections and friends at the DOD that can help you move this forward, or because you went private and started talking, that maybe that cooperation isn't there anymore?
No, the first. I definitely maintain relationships with people back in the department, and not just the Department of Defense, the U.S. government writ large. I think it's important that, we do this together, and I don't want to ever do anything that's out of sync or out of step. I don't want to do anything to compromise efforts that are going on in the government. I don't want to do anything that can be perceived as being destructive. I want to be constructive. I want to be helpful. I want to be an enabler. I don't want to be someone that interferes with efforts. That's not what this is about. This is about helping the government do the job that it's supposed to do in a way that is in the best interest of the American people. And that's what I'm committed to.
See, you didn't squirm when you said that. You were very, very matter of fact and determined in that. And I really appreciate that. The audience can't see what I see here, but you just said that with such conviction.
Well, I believe it. I mean, I'm not an overly intelligent person. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. I'm just a government servant and a servant to the American people. Always have been. I took an oath to defend this country long ago from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And sometimes those enemies are bureaucracy. Sometimes the enemy isn't necessarily holding an AK-47. It's holding a pen and paper, or it's stovepipes within the system. And you know what? I'm still very much committed to that mission. I know that probably hinders me to some degree because there are some people who really don't like the fact that I have connections to the government. But I would say that I don't think we would be here where we are today in this conversation if we didn't have those relationships. Again, everybody should be on the boat. This is a topic that affects all of us equally, and to excuse a pun, but to alienate people in the government, I don't think that's that's helpful. I don't think that's constructive. We need them on board. We need their talents. We need their expertise to help figure this out.
Do you have? See, I've got so many questions. I just can't end this right now, Luz. Okay, have you had somebody advise you on where and what not to say to run interference? For instance, like during this broadcast tonight, did you get a text, right? Dude, slow down. This isn't a zone that you need to go into. Are you free of that, or do you get a phone call once in a while from the man?
Well, I know my left and right limits. I've worked for the man for long enough where I know how to mind my P's and Q's. If I get a call, it's because I said something wrong. Do I get texts all the time? But I'm very careful in the way I have a conversation. And again, I know probably it's frustrating for some people. They probably look at that and saying, "Oh, you're being evasive and whatnot." Yeah, I am. I am being evasive sometimes because there's other things at stake. It's not just about Lue Elizondo, and this is what I keep trying to drive home to people. This is the problem with this topic is that there are so many personalities in this topic, and you all of a sudden, when you're in a position where people think you have some sort of authority, you get put up on this pedestal where you are almost this demigod, right? And no matter what you say, that's taken as gospel, and that's dangerous. That's exactly what we don't need. What we need is conversation and discussion and dialogue and collaboration. We don't need someone standing up on a podium saying, "This is the way it shall be," and it's the way I think about it is the answer. All that other stuff is nonsense. I don't think that's helpful. And, that's why I refrain from giving my opinion most of the time, because at the end of the day, Jimmy, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. What matters are what facts and the data says. And it's very, very important. I could spend the next 10 hours telling you what I think, but at the end of the day, it's just what I think. And I've said this before to people. The one thing I've learned in intelligence is that you can be absolutely certain of something and still be absolutely wrong. And I don't want to be in that category. I don't want to be, there's too much at stake. I don't want to be held responsible for leading people down a road turns out to be BS. That would be the worst thing I could do. This community is fraught with hucksters and shysters and people that have made a living of defrauding other human beings off their hard-earned money in search of the truth. And I think that's a perversion of the truth. I'm not doing this to get rich. Hell, the last 2 years I was living in a trailer, literally. So, it hasn't been easy. I'm doing this because I really believe in what I'm doing, just like you really believe in what you're doing. And I'll leave it at that. That's why I don't offer my opinion that often.
Well, you and we talked about this earlier, and I told you, Lou, I told you, you need to remember what you just said so you can say it again. And what happened? We forgot, right? Okay, so let's see if I can pull this out of you again, which is this. You have got a lot of fans out there. Let's just leave it there. But that have put you up into a position that deity, right? Almost a godlike spot. Are you cognizant of that, and do you believe the hype? Right.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm cognizant that a lot of people give me credit that I don't deserve. And do I believe the hype? Absolutely not. I'm not one of those guys and never have been. I am profoundly boring, I'm sure, if you were to ever meet me in person. That is, for me, that is the devil. So many people start believing the hype, and they start believing what people are telling them about themselves instead of remaining true to themselves. And then the next thing you know, they're lost. They're gone. And that's a real danger. Fortunately for me, I've spent my life in the shadows. So I love my anonymity. I love my privacy. I tend to be very introverted, even though people see me, oh, you're very extroverted. I'm actually not. I'm very introverted. That's why I live in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, right? For me, I think it's important that we always remain grounded. Remember where we come from. Remember where we're trying to go. And make sure that when you climb that mountain, you always reach a hand down to pull somebody up. That has been my philosophy from day one. And leadership in the government, I think, is oftentimes misunderstood with management. Leadership is a unique quality. And a leader will never tell you they're a leader. A leader is assigned that role by other people, never themselves. I do my best to always try to leave this planet maybe in a little bit better condition than I found it. I always try to pay it forward. I've unfortunately had to do some horrible things in my life in times of conflict. These are things that nobody should ever have to do, unfortunately. But the reality is that this is not a perfect world, and we have to do what we have to do sometimes. But for me, I always remember where I came from, and I remember where people come from, because at the end of the day, it's all about people. There shouldn't be any my team versus your team, Team Lou or Team Jimmy or whatever. We're all in the same team. This is all of us together, and I think people are beginning to realize that now. I think people realize that really the future is in everybody's hands. Don't look at me to solve your problems. I will help you by enabling you and giving you all the tools and resources necessary. But at the end of the day, you have to be responsible for taking ownership and also solving this problem. And that's why I love UFO Twitter so much. These folks are writing Congress. They're writing their elected officials. They're having the conversation. They're talking to media. It's an amazing and beautiful thing to witness and be part of. But make no mistake, I am not UFO Twitter. If I die tomorrow, this topic is going to continue, and it's going to continue to grow and become better and better and better. So my advice to anybody that's out there, look at me as a member of your squad, as your team, of your fire team. None of us are any more important or less important than anybody else. We all have a role to play. We all are a specific tool in the tool bag. I just happen to be a screwdriver, but you might be a wrench, and someone else is a hammer, and someone else is something else. And we all do what we can from that perspective.
Thank you so much, Lou. What a great conversation. And again, I look forward to the next time that you're on with us, and let's take this all a step further. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
It was
My
a great
pleasure.
conversation. Perfect. Have a great night. Be safe. Take care of your family. We are in the middle of a pandemic. That's not over. Hey, you know what? We didn't even talk COVID. We did 2.5 hours. No COVID. Be safe up there, Lou. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you, Jimmy. Have a great night.
And with that, I am going to take a quick break. As everybody noticed, I blew right through a commercial break, and I kept Lou on the air. He didn't know it. That was my psychological twist on Lou. He didn't know I was playing him. Did you like that, Lou? That was cool, huh?
Yeah, that was great, man. Actually, I would have hired you 3 years ago had I been in the government.
Have a great night, man. Thank you so much. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Follow Lou on Twitter at Lue Elizondo. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I've got time for a few phone calls. We'll do that when I come back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. There you go. Lue Elizondo. What a great conversation. I could have kept it going out of respect to Lou. I could have kept it going, but wow, what a conversation. What did you think? 747-228-2051. I've got enough time here for a couple of calls, and I'll get to that in a second. But there was so much, of course, that was left on the table, and we will save all of that for a future show and do it once again with Lou. But that was a great conversation, and I hope that I got enough in tonight for everybody. There was just so many, lots of questions were coming in, and I was taking a look at all of that. But that was great. That was a great conversation. And there you go. I'm looking at some of the comments in Twitter, and I agree, but then again, you have to go back and listen to how Lou said it. You know, hey, I'm being evasive because I have to be, and I'm of course paraphrasing, but that's the nature of not only himself personally, but what we are dealing with here, and his connections and his oaths and everything else. But that being said, very open, and I don't think he didn't answer a question. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I need to digest this as well as everybody else. So with that, let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? You're live.
Hello?
Yes, you're live.
Hello. So
Just curious, like, about the whole consciousness phenomena behind this whole thing. You know, that's kind of the main thing I kind of wanted to hear about. You know, I'm just
what's your name? Yeah, what's your name? What do you mean consciousness?
So, I mean, that there are different, you know, parts of reality that are based off of different levels like that. So I'm just wondering, you know, I mean, there are different parts of it that I'm just, I don't know, wondering. That's the question.
Okay, you're breaking up there, Jay. You're going with this would be the subject of another show. I mean, when it comes to, and I want to thank you for the phone call. When it comes to this, and consciousness and contact, we didn't get into that tonight on the show. That is such a broad subject. But I think that it is something that everybody is interested in. I don't know Lou's take on any of that, but I'll do that on a future show. And like I said, that's a broad conversation. That's a full show in itself. But it's something that we are all interested in. I know, and I'm going to make this brief because I've got calls on hold. I know that I can go out with a group of friends and have a positive mindset and want to see something, and then all of a sudden something happens. And I don't know what's going on there, but it seems to me that there is a direct connection with us as individuals. I don't know what that is, but I am fascinated with that. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
The subject of another show. I mean, when it comes
you got to turn me down in the background.
When it comes to this.
Hello? Yes. Turn me down in the background.
Doing it right now, Jimmy. How are you?
Okay, who's this? Take me off speaker.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. This is Joe from Huntsville, Alabama.
Hi, Joe from Huntsville, Alabama. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Jimmy?
It's it was a pretty fun show. What did you think?
I thought it was one of the best interviews you've done. I thought it was great that you finally had Lue on. The thing that I think is incredibly interesting, and I'm somebody who came out of the government, but have been around the topic of the phenomenon for about 30 years. What I've found interesting is after the 2017 New York Times article, everyone seems so confused by the concept of something flying in restricted airspace as being a threat. Now, if the morning of September 11, 2001, at 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Time, if there would have been a report that came out that there was an unidentified plane that wasn't responding to communications, nobody knew who was flying it, where it came from, what its intentions were, but it were flying over the White House, people would be freaking out, and the government would be trying to shoot it down. But here we are, almost 20 years later, and we've got validated reports from the Department of Defense stating that there are, quote, unidentified aircraft, if you will, flying over even more restricted airspace than in some cases maybe even the White House. But nobody seems to be able to get their head around why that's a threat. And these are craft that we have no idea what they are. They're clearly not in the U.S. inventory. That's been confirmed by the government. And I guess the narrative of the naysayers is just very confusing and conflicting. I think what you did tonight was help provide a lot of important context just across the community need to be very appreciative of you, is the fact that I think what was highlighted tonight is what's needed is a disclosure caucus at the congressional level. So, to me, the community at large that's out there that wants to throw stones every time someone comes out with facts, verifiable facts, which I think a lot of the data that Lue's put out verified. Barring that, why doesn't the same community of people, the same community of interest, go to their politicians and lobby for a disclosure caucus? Because there seems to be a caucus for almost every area of interest or special interest group. And to me, the community at large that's so passionate about this should be involved in a grassroots campaign that pushes members of Congress to work in a bipartisan fashion across the aisle to establish a disclosure caucus. And then, the community at large can take their issue to the polls. Politicians who are a member of the caucus can get support, and the ones who don't support disclosure or who are not a member of the disclosure caucus should not get the vote. If it's that important to the traditional UFO community or the ufologists or those interested in the UAP topic. But I think you did an amazing job, Jimmy. You asked a lot of hard questions, and God bless you. We appreciate the fact that you're raising awareness on such an important topic.
Thank you, Joe, and enjoy the rest of your evening, man. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you, Jimmy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great night. And the disclosure caucus. I mean, would that even be possible? I still say we should have a disclosure march, right? The Million Disclosure March. We should do something like that. We should organize it, and I think it would be fun and successful too as well. I've got time for one more call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, what's up, Jimmy? This is Dave and Lori and Clint. How are you doing tonight, bro?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Good.
You got Lewis on. This is amazing. I met Tom DeLonge in the Ice Palace back in early 2000s when he
is he answering questions?
Well, I'm just saying he's the.
Is Louis answering questions right now?
No, Lou's off the air, and I've got about 30.
Okay.
I've got about 30 seconds left.
Okay.
What did you guys?
Have you ever heard of Have you ever heard of that giant in Afghanistan that all the soldiers caught or whatever? I guess. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard.
I've heard teeth.
Yeah, I've heard the stories about it.
About that. I was wondering what you thought about that.
Well, I don't have enough time to answer tonight. Did you guys?
Okay.
You
know what, Jimmy?
Did you guys?
Types your show, amazing.
Did you guys enjoy the conversation tonight with Lue?
Yes, sir. Oh my God, yeah, absolutely, bro.
I'm blown away and thankful for you.
Absolutely blown away.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
If it's doing to the stars, it's amazing.
You guys are the best. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. You have a beautiful night, brother, and go back, Tepe.
There you go, man. Fade to Black. And Dave and Lori and Clint out there in Georgia. You guys, thank you so much. What a great conversation tonight. And tomorrow night, right here on Fade to Black, Daryl Anka Bashar. What an amazing week on the show. This is, somebody pinch me. This is why I do this, everybody. All right? Love the community. Love the Fadernauts. Thank you. All right? Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe with written permission from Fade to Black, without written permission from Fade to Black of the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Daryl Anka. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Fade to Black.